Welcome back to JZFishing, you guys. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the best lures to saltwater fish here in California. Stay tuned. Now, before we get too far into today's video, I will say that there are a couple of quick important things. If you didn't already see yesterday's video, there will be no saltwater fishing there will be no actual fishing videos. It'll just be tips and tricks videos this week. I really apologize about that, but it was so smoky this weekend, so I wasn't able to get out on the water. But next weekend, we got the tournament on September 20th. And if you haven't already signed up for that, go sign up. Link in the description will be below. It'll be at Bon Tempe Lake on September 20th. It's a Sunday. From 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. we'll be meeting at the Bon Tempe Dam. So meet at the dam side if you're already signed up. It's going to be a blast. $20 buy-in. We did one last month at Tiburon. If you haven't already seen the video for that, click there. It'll be there. But yeah, it was a blast, and it's going to be a blast this month as well. We're going to try and make it a monthly tradition. So go down, Google form, sign up. You guys know the drill. But yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, now the first kind of lure that we're going to be talking about today in today's video is the Swimbait. Now, the Swimbait is, in my personal opinion, the most versatile bait that you can throw in saltwater. Just because, which the Swimbait does, it imitates a bait fish. And there's tons and tons of different kinds of bait fish in saltwater. Even around here there's so many. We have herring, we have anchovies, we have smelt, which is what this is actually supposed to look like. This is supposed to look like smelt. It's a really, it's a lure that people have been using for just forever, and it just consistently works so well when nothing else does. So what is a Swimbait? A Swimbait usually consists of two pieces. At least a saltwater swimbait. You have a jig head with a hook on it. This is a 1/2 ounce, I believe, jig head with a extra long hook, as you can tell. And this is a 5-inch swim trailer. So this is the actual swimbait itself. This is a 5-inch smelt imitation trailer, I believe from Gubba something. The link in the description will be below to buy both of these products. But this is a really great swimbait brand. I've loved these swimbaits. I use them for everything from halibut to stripers to rockfish. They just work so well. Now, swimbaits can be used really for everything around here in the Bay Area, just because everything here in the Bay Area eats kind of bait fish. The most common species, though, that you will fish these swimbaits for are halibut, striped bass, and rockfish. I've heard of some people that catch sturgeon on swimbait, and I've heard people that catch salmon on swimbaits, but usually swimbaits work best with stripers, halibut, and rockfish. Now, when you do fish for all three of those species, what you're really going to want to do is try and do your best to maintain contact with the bottom. Both halibut and rockfish are primarily bottom feeders, especially halibut. Halibut it's very rare to get a halibut to bite on a swimbait that's in the middle of the water column. You really want to maintain contact with the bottom. Now with stripers, it's a little bit of a different story. Sometimes they'll eat if the lure is in the middle or the top of the water column. I personally still think the best place to put your swimbait is at the bottom of the water column, because when you're fishing for stripers, who knows, you might hook up to a giant halibut. So whenever I'm fishing a swimbait, I personally like to keep it on the bottom, and unless the tide is absolutely great, so unless the tide is really rushing, what I like to do is I like to kind of jig it every so often. I don't straight retrieve. A lot of people will straight retrieve, but I personally don't always think that every single fish is going to want to chase down that lure. I just make this retrieve a little bit slower, and every so often just jig it a couple times just to see, maybe there's a fish that was trailing it, and that little jig will give the fish enough time to go and ambush that bait. The next bait on today's list is the Bucktail Jig. Now, the Bucktail Jig is a really versatile lure, just like the Swimbait. In fact, they are very similar to each other. I personally don't have any Bucktail Jigs on me right now because I lost both of them on my most recent saltwater trip. But a photo of them will be here. So a Bucktail Jig is pretty much just a jig head with sometimes a trailer. Some people use trailer, some people don't. I always suggest trailer just because it helps the action of the lure. The Bucktail Jig can be fished for pretty much any species, like the Swimbait. Halibut, striped bass, Rockfish will eat it. I think the best species to fish with a bucktail jig for are stripers. Stripers love bucktails. Here in California and anywhere else that stripers live. In Massachusetts, huge bucktail jigs are really, really popular to catching big striped bass. They'll use them on boats, they'll troll them around. But yeah, so bucktail jigs are really, really versatile, and I've also heard that people catch lots of them on halibut, or catch lots of halibut on them. The next lure on today's list is the saltwater jerkbait. Now, a jerkbait is a very, very popular lure in both freshwater and saltwater, but what most people don't understand is that it kills here in California. It's one of the most popular lures for striped bass. I've caught many stripers on this actual specific jerkbait right here. I got it in a mystery tackle box. I've also seen people catching halibut on jerkbaits. I have personally never caught halibut on a jerkbait, but if you maintain contact with the bottom and you find a lure that will imitate the bait fish that the halibut are feeding on, you shouldn't have any issues. I've also heard of people catching rockfish here in the San Francisco Bay on jerkbaits. I think it's a lot less popular, and there's a bunch of other better lure choices than a jerkbait, so if you are a rockfish fisherman, I wouldn't exactly suggest a jerkbait. The next lure on today's list, though, I will highly suggest for a rock fisherman. But yeah, so saltwater jerkbaits are really, really important, and they're just overall a really versatile bait, and you can cover tons and tons of water with this bad boy. Okay, now before I show you guys the next lure on today's list, I'm just going to give you guys one quick tip to enhance the action of your lure. One thing that we've been using pretty recently is a bait scent. Now, if you're going to be fishing for halibut with, let's say, an anchovy swimbait, like a swimbait that looks like an anchovy, one thing that I could highly suggest is go to your local, either West Marines or Amazon. You can go check the link in the description below. We'll have a bunch of different scents. Pick up an anchovy scent and absolutely lather that swimbait with that scent, because it just adds a little bit of attractant to the bait. It makes the bait more realistic. The whole goal of fishing with a lure is to try and imitate the bait. So one thing that people will say a lot is match the hatch. So if you're trying to fish for a halibut that's feeding on an anchovy or feeding on a smelt, you're going to want to throw anchovy swimbait. And anchovy swimbaits, smelt swimbaits, or anything that kind of imitates an anchovy or a smelt. So one way to help improve your bait action is to go and absolutely lather your bait with some scent. If you're interested in picking up some scents, we'll be showing our best ones down in the description below, and if you purchase them off that specific link, we get a bit of a cutback. It doesn't cost any more for you guys, but it helps support the channel, so we really appreciate it. If you do buy anything that we talk about in any of our videos, use the links in the description below. The next lure on today's list is a spoon. Now, there's so many different kinds of spoons, and they're extremely good because they can be used to target so many species. Here I have 3 spoons that I'm going to be showing you guys. The first spoon is a Castmaster. Now, a Castmaster is a really good casting spoon. You can use it to jig, but as you can see, this one has a little bit of a silver and a blue tint. It's got one single treble hook, but there's a million different kinds of Castmasters, but they're really good for casting from shore. They cast a mile because they're extremely heavy. This one isn't actually all that heavy, but it's really aerodynamic. This thing is by far the farthest casting lure that I specifically own. So if you're fishing from surf or you're fishing from land, this is a lure that I would very much so highly suggest. It's most commonly used for stripers, this specific one, but I have seen some people catch halibut on big enough spoons. So if you want to co-catch some stripers either from the surf or from your local land spot, chuck the spoon out and retrieve it relatively fast, and you will get slammed by a big striper. Moving on, we got the Deadly Dick, which is pretty much a skinnier, longer version than the Castmaster. It's the same kind of thing. You can use it for casting, for stripers and halibut, but you can also use it to troll for big stripers and halibut. And in fact, I've heard of lots of people trolling this thing around for stripers and halibut in Massachusetts and Cape Cod. I've also heard that it's also a pretty good lure for salmon. I've not tried it out yet, but I will want to try it out here when we can get up to Benicia State Park to do some salmon fishing from shore. The final kind of spoon on today's list is the jigging spoon. So this is a spoon that you'll usually take off of a boat. You'll drop it down to the bottom and you'll just jig it up and down. This is the most common spoon that I use for rockfish. Rockfish love this thing. They will absolutely annihilate these spoons. This one is specifically just gold. But yeah, it's a really productive spoon. One other thing too that's nice about spoons is you can catch not only stripers, halibut, rockfish, but you can also catch salmon trolling a spoon. A lot of popular salmon fishermen around here would either use a crippled anchovy, which we'll talk about in a different video, or a nice little spoon. You can just troll the spoon with a flasher, drop it down to this expected depth to where these fish are, and you will get hammered. If you are fishing for salmon though, here in California, make sure you're using a barbless hook, because that is what the California regulations are. If you are interested in salmon fishing and you want us to make a video about salmon fishing, tell us in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching today's video. If you guys are interested in any of our other social medias, go down, link in the description below. You guys will really want to check them out. We got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and if you want to purchase anything that we talked about in today's video, go down, link in the description below. If you're also interested in signing up for the tournament, the forum will be down below. You guys already know. Sign up for that because you won't want to miss it. It's going to be next weekend. Yeah, so without any further ado, signing off for today. See you guys.